All right, welcome in for another Friday Safety Focus of the Week, October 25th. This week's code of conduct is to work in an environmental conscientious manner. Ben Dow, anything to add on this code item for us today?
Yeah, do the right thing, practice integrity, and set a good example, taking care of the environment.
If you need spill kits, we got plenty downstairs, tool crib. Good job this week. Added 7 to our count. 22 from our last recordable, 7 from our last first aid. A deer hit us the other day, but I'm not going to count it. So 7 days from our last vehicle incident. So let's maintain our best practices when it comes to personal and vehicle operation and behavior out there. Let's continue to work safe. This week I wanted to highlight, we got some changes to the DigSafe law. Coming down the pike, I know we've talked about it a little bit, but it is here. It starts next week. So let's get ready for 72 hours for advanced DigSafe notification for locators to come out and provide services to our excavation areas. So now that means 3 days. So if you want to start a job on Monday, we need to get that ticket in first thing Wednesday morning for that to be legal for us to dig in that location. So Wednesday morning. So we cannot count weekends and holidays. So everybody, that all stays the same. Nothing changes there. But it starts November 1st, which is next week, next Friday. I have been told by the Agency of Vermont that Bill Jordan is starting to gonna raise fines at the Vermont Public Service Department of Public Service Board. So that is for us, but also for the locating companies and also the facility owners, to making sure that this process moves a little bit smoother than it has in the last roughly 5 years. We've really struggled to get locators out on their job sites. So the idea that hopefully this extra 24 hours will be able to provide the service to contractors and excavating operators out there in a more time and efficient manner. We'll see what happens, but that is kind of the intent of the change. So let's just remember and continue with our best practice. So pre-planning is utmost importance when it comes to all excavation, but definitely when it comes to utilities. So good proper communication, setting the good example, don't overpromise and underdeliver regarding your time restraints. Really, it's important that we pre-mark. I have been taking some phone calls lately that we've gotten dig safes in without proper pre-mark. So again, that's our obligation according to the laws. We're going to pre-mark before we call, or if we call, we have to like jump on it right away. We cannot forget. Locators have been, that's been one thing that the locating companies have mentioned that the contractors aren't doing, is proper pre-marking of their excavation areas. So let's make sure that we're getting out there and doing our due part in the process and pre-marking our excavation areas. Again, if known, call the utility owners or safety to locate private utilities inside the excavation. Again, DigSafe is just members for the most part. It's your big outfits, the GMPs, the Consolidated Communication, the Comcast. There's definitely other private utilities such as water and sewer per towns, like Burlington Electric is another kind of private utility. They have their own locators. So again, you gotta kind of need to know your location that you're working to making sure we're making the right calls. And again, when you do call in a ticket, they do provide phone numbers. Also, our set of plans normally is pretty well established and has those proper communication phone numbers in the set of plans. Work with the locators if you're on site with the same time. That's another thing that I sat in a couple meetings before this change, and the locating companies. It's one of the, from the contractor's point of view, is we would like to try to establish better communication and also better teamwork with the locating companies versus them kind of blowing us off, showing up and not doing, clearing the whole entire dig safe. If you are going to work with you locator on site and we have say we have miles, like up at Highgate, we got a lot of road that we're directional drilling and putting in water line. If they can't clear the whole entire scope of the project and you're going to work with them, make sure exchange phone numbers and set realistic goals of what locations that we want to have marked out ahead of us. If we want the whole job, then we can have that. That's our right. But if you're going to work with them, let's really establish that good line of communication and setting clear expectations to making sure that the mark outs are happening ahead of us. Always take photos if you can, GPS or offsets to maintain the marks. Okay, we are required to maintain them. It's best practice on our end is maintaining the marks once they're down. The less that contractors have to call them back out, that again puts a kind of bottleneck in their process, and they can't clear the tickets because they're kind of going back to the same sites over and over and over again. Notify safety if no marks or are incomplete. Bill Jordan at the Public Service Boards wants contractors continue to let the state know if the utility companies aren't doing their job. So if we have tickets that are way past that 72-hour mark, we need to put it a UFDR into the state just to kind of let them know the current climate of the DigSafe utility laws and the progress that hopefully we'll see here moving forward. And again, if your project needs like a full-time locator, we do have them available. There are some foremans and some project engineers that have them with them, but if we need to move around those resources, we can. So just let us know if you want any training on a locator or a locator on your site, because you are digging around a lot of utilities and it's a high probability for a utility strike. That's when we want to make sure our resources are distributed properly so we can prevent. And that's the name of the game with this DigSafe law is all about utility prevention to making sure that we don't have outages for these public service goods. So with that said, we just got a call on a water break underneath this one. So who wants to go and try to figure out what's underneath all this stuff? More of a joke. Hopefully this is what we see. The goal moving forward is we're going to see a lot more paint in a timely manner, properly done inside our excavations. So see what happens.
All right. Thanks, Matt. I'll take over the screen.
Sounds good.
Okay, do you see my screen?
Yep, we got it.
Okay, good. So for announcements this week, we got some 401k news. There's a Morgan Stanley financial advisor that'll be coming next Friday, the 1st of November, and there'll be half-hour meetings available from 8 to 11:30. So check with Veronica next week. Melanie is out, so check with Veronica to schedule. On the health and dental insurance front, we have some new requirements. Every participant will be required to have an online access set up. So we'll be getting that figured out. There'll be more information coming. Yearly re-enrollment starts in November and will be done online by the employee. So it will be different than previous. You have to do it yourself through that online portal. Open enrollment, meaning those employees who are newly qualified or maybe new employees, and they will be enrolled starting in November, anytime November, I think, online, of course. And then there will also be coming out here next week, we said, the 2025 plan and rate summary. So be looking for that. And just to note, it's all good news on rates and deductibles. So we're excited to share that with you and get it all finalized here. And so please, again, check with Veronica, Melanie, or Gina for questions or help setting up your account. I understand that there'll be a computer set up in Melanie's office for employees to go and use if they don't have good access to a computer and the internet to do this login and do whatever, checking of their status and everything online through the web portals of the health and dental insurance. So all good stuff. It should be pretty simple. That's the intent, to make it simple. So
I assume they're going to, I think, Ken, they're going to end up sending us some links
yes,
to at least our emails.
This is all just a heads up. Yep.
Yeah.
more information coming, and we'll
Yep.
get all that right here on the website too, on
Yep.
the email. So
Yep.
another item, it's not a new one, but it's been discussed in the last few weeks. It's time to start winterizing equipment, and I put a special warning there. Looks like there's a substantial freeze predicted for Sunday night and probably other nights. So be aware and manage it accordingly, and don't take it for granted things won't freeze, because it can be a real mess if it does. So we have the social media links here. And then the next announcement here is the ECI Fall Celebration for 2024. All employees are encouraged to attend this meeting to celebrate our accomplishments and discuss our future. So this is November 1st. That's next Friday, a week from today, from 2 to 5 at the DoubleTree, which is the old Sheridan Hotel. That's at the conference center in the back.
Something to add, Ken?
Yeah.
That is it's a company-wide meeting. It's
Yep.
there's parts of it that are I want everyone to be there, so we're going to pay everyone to be there. So it is a company meeting,
Oh.
and I'll say it's a mandatory for anybody that can make that. Anybody's working on Friday that can make it. I want everyone to be there. It's going to be a good meeting, and the more the better.
And you're going to serve appetizers
Yeah.
or something.
Gonna
Wow. I'm there.
gonna feed them, and maybe even give them. We might even throw some shirts out to them or something.
Oh, okay. Well, that
Or
sounds
maybe
good.
something
I
else.
guess
If you
so.
come, you never know what you're gonna get when you go to the meetings. We try to make it so you can
Entertaining
have something to
and-
bring home.
Yeah.
You'll even have something to bring home, Ken.
All right, good. Thanks. So this is the Preventative Care Rewards Program we've talked about the last couple of weeks, so check it out. We have one so-called new employee. He's not really new. He's a returnee. That's Jeff Dumont in the Trenchless Division. Welcome back to Jeff. October is a Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So again, we're encouraging pink. I got my pink T-shirt on here. So we're encouraging that breast cancer awareness color, and there are T-shirts available and sweatshirts available. Check with Sarah. All the donations, all the proceeds go to the breast cancer charity that we selected. And also we have the ECI Primary Care Wellness Program Summary link here, the document, as well as the contact info to go make an appointment at Champlain Medical Urgent Care, and we have their location. That's over on Kennedy Drive, really easy to get to from the shop. And the ECI Employee Assistance Program info and contact info here. And for this week, we're talking about the emergency slope stabilization we did for VTrans in Plainfield. That's on Route 2. Ken Allard, are you out there?
Hey, Ken.
Hey, you want to take over, or you want me to drive here?
You can drive.
Okay. I'll
So-
scroll a little bit and let you start.
So the site was formerly a pull-off with picnic tables, which was lost to a slide triggered by the high waters of the Winooski River during the Great Flood of July 23, or the Great Vermont Flood of July 23. VTrans hired on Geodesign to evaluate and prepare a slope stabilization design, but again, in earlier this year, the slope started to move more, and they decided that they were going to go with the kind of a more emergency design and put in sheet piles and anchored wall that we installed. The guy from Geodesign, Jake, the designer, and I went to Norwich and gave a presentation to the folks from ASCE there. Just what was that, last week, 2 weeks ago?
It was last Monday, not this Monday, but the previous one, the 15th.
Goes quick.
Yep.
Want to scroll down?
Yep. There we go. That's Jake and Ken.
Had to put that picture.
Good one, Ken.
You want to go to the next one?
Yep.
So here's a picture of the Winooski. On the left side of the screen, it comes straight at the embankment. So it's about a 70-foot embankment on Route 2. And it used to be a little farther away, but during the storm, when was that early this year, it took away 30 feet of the toe of the slope at the bottom of the screen. And then, you know, you can see it just hooks right around and goes back. So it really pounds that bank.
I can see one of the picnic tables on the bottom right.
That picnic table has some serious CMP foundations, and I mean, it's got to be 10 foot in the ground. Nobody was going to steal that picnic table.
Okay. This is from your slideshow.
Yep. So, again, yeah, the slope just started to fail and then fail faster. Originally, they were going to do just a stone fill slope and then something a little beefier at the bottom, and things started to move. Go ahead, Ken. And they came in. So this is a picture of March 24. It's kind of cool. They've got some quick photos to go through the timeline of it. So this is March of 24, where there's still, you know, trees and whatever on the bank. It's pretty laid back, all good. And then in July of 24, things really started to move. The picture on the right is neat because they show the 30 feet of loss at the toe, a little bit less loss in the middle, and then, you know, what is that, 20, 24 feet up near the top. Then they started to realize they needed to monitor things. They mobilized equipment to drill in inclinometers, and I think they might have put a well point in. And just as they went on, this kind of sheer face started to develop a little bit further back. And by the time we got there in October, there's about a 5-foot shelf, similar to what you see on the right there for August 24. So, kind of, you know, we did this job knowing that it was going to be a challenge. You know, we'd have to work from Route 2. They gave us a 2-week road closure with detour, which really wasn't that bad. I think it was like a 10-minute detour up and around. But the challenge was that where the sheets had to go was directly under the communication lines. You know, the slope was unstable. You'd have to put a crane right on Route 2, which is about 10 feet from the failure face at the narrowest spot. And, you know, you're going to be running a vibratory hammer on that slope that's 70 feet tall. But we felt comfortable we could do it. You know, working from kind of the far end of that picture, the failure surface was farther away, so we were able to build the wall and then kind of have some security from working behind the wall as we advanced it closer to the narrow section of the road. Yeah, we had some trouble with the hammers, but ultimately we ended up renting a bigger hammer, vibratory hammer, and encountered a pretty stiff layer about 20 feet down. These sheets were intended to be 40 footers, but I think their minimum was 25 feet. We found that if we could get through it, this stiff layer, which was about 20 to 25 feet down, they seemed to go good after that, but not all of them made it past that layer, which V-Trans was okay with. They didn't want to destabilize the slope anymore by just pounding it. And then, you know, we had sheets, and then we had to drill tiebacks 3 feet down, 15-degree angle. There's 60 tiebacks on this wall, which was 265 feet long in the end. And as we went, this crack in the road developed, which you can see, I don't know, it's at probably 10 feet from the yellow line. We think it's probably just the edge of the old concrete slab that's under the road, but Geodesign and V-Trans were getting pretty nervous about it because, you know, it was growing every day. And ultimately we ended up drilling tiebacks that were at the most 70 feet long when the design only called for 35-foot tiebacks. So pretty substantial increase, but they pay by the foot, so we're good and they're happy. So here's just a picture of the sheet. They were actually, were they 14s, Ken? I can't remember now. PZC 14.
Yeah, they're NZ 14s.
Right. Yep.
Not PZs.
We actually fought the sheets pretty good because, you know, they're 40-foot sheets, and they came, some of the worst cases, there was about a 2.5-inch belly in them in the strong direction. If you like pull the string from one end of the socket to the other. And so not just hard ground driving conditions, but the sheets didn't want to thread very well either. And
That doesn't help.
it really increased the difficulty of the job. This slide was just talking about, hollow bar work, which I think we're pretty familiar with.
Yeah, our standard hollow bar tiebacks.
Here's a rental hammer that we rented. It was a 3,700 inch-pound driving moment hammer. Just to compare, our ice hammer is a 2,800, and then our small yellow one's a 1,200. So pretty big hammer for us, but it definitely hits a lot harder than the ice did. Picture of the guys drilling. Grout plane in the back, 230 drilling. Worked pretty good. The state was surprised. They had this requirement. They didn't want us to dig more than 5 feet down. I think they were relying on the weight of the soil for toe stability. I'm not 100% sure, but they didn't want us to dig any more than 5 feet down. And they were just surprised at the volume of excavation needed to get in there and actually drill it. They did not. Here's a picture of the whole site. I think this might have been the most productive day. There was hammer driving going on. Ricky was in that 220 there on rubber digging, and you guys were drilling. Walked around the grout plant.
Wow.
It was tight.
And the
actually,
cable is laying on the ground, so it's out of your way.
That's right. Yeah. So we had to work around the communication cable. We couldn't end up driving with it up in the air, so they dropped it for us. And we just had to keep moving it around so we didn't, run it over.
Yep.
Wow. Cool.
Picture of the soil nail testing and lock off. They had us test them to, what was it designed? 25 kip, I think.
Yeah, 25 kip. Yep. Not very high. It's not that bad for tieback.
Yep. Yeah, and a picture of the finished site.
Nice.
Might have grass growing by now.
We got it all done, and then V-Trans was like, actually, here's a written order. We want you to pave this section of road. And then we gave them that number, and they were like, actually, we want you to install guardrail and remove the Jersey barriers. And then we started to give them that number, and they were like, actually, you know what? Now that you're all ready lined up to go, let's just cancel it. You guys are good. We're all done.
Yeah. I scheduled it, Ken. They canceled it.
Well, thank you, Ken. It's a good project, cool project, and good presentation. And it was pretty cool to have Ken presenting at the ASCE meeting with with the state officials. We had Andrea Wright was from V-Trans. She's like upper level environmental policy person, and there was this Ben. I can't remember Ben's last name. He's like the state geologist, right? And let's see, and then another guy who's like kind of an emergency coordinator for the state. So it was really cool. It was a good presentation. It was neat how all the different angles of these emergency flooding conditions are covered. And from the photo archives, this is the bridge approach paving we did as a subcontractor to Winterset, just down the road towards East Montpelier, in East Montpelier on Route 2. This is back in November 2009.
Oh,
Hey,
Nice
Ken,
map.
one thing I'll mention,
Yep.
one thing I'll mention about the Plainfield job is 270-foot long wall, 40-foot sheets, that came bent. They
Yep.
had some mill defects, which we've seen before. We saw it in Middle Perry. It makes it very challenging.
Right.
But no laps in that wall, which we couldn't have any laps. It wasn't permissible to do that, but that's pretty impressive. The guys worked hard to achieve that during the shutdown too. So we're pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
For sure. It was a good job. All right. Well, with that, I'll turn to safe.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Thanks, well, both Kens, Ben and both Bens, for jumping in, and thanks everybody for jumping in this morning. Still pretty dark out, so good sight illumination and wearing your vests until it gets nice and bright out there. Should be a good day. Let's work safe. Let's have a great day today. If you watch in a group setting, just please send over your attendance that you watched it with. Much appreciated.
Thank you, everybody.